inner voices.
Even with that scale coming down.
Yeah. So I mean, like, so if you don't understand how to do contrapuntal music, and the simplest form is probably those two parts inventions. So
is what I felt was the gap, big gap is there's some, I think there's some preliminary knowledge that helps. Maybe even choral singing or something, So there's a disconnect because in my opinion, piano, only the fingers is not enough. Yeah, you possibly as an artist you are thinking in so many. While you're playing, you are thinking,
I think both Chopin and Rachmaninoff were inspired by singers, even Mozart.
Yeah.
You understand? So, and so.
But isn't that a general like?
Yeah, I think so. So that's why I don't even like the idea of doing playing back and making it sound mechanistic, making it sound mechanical. So I generally like people that are going to make. So it would be some of my favorites, and Andrea Schiff, Angela Hewitt. You know that they make the music sing. Whether or not people are saying, if they need pedal, they will put the pedal at the point that they need to put it.
Okay.
As long as it's coming out clearly. But each voice, you find out when you're hearing all these great people playing, they play it, you can hear each voice singing. And after all, Bach started was the chorister. So how can he suddenly now say when he's doing instrumental music, the music should not sing?
So the tracing of metronome, that's what you're saying. You don't play, and you're not hearing anything. Even sometimes in one line, I discovered that in one line, it's one line. Yeah. Like when I mean like one line, I don't mean it like it's just a
like some of those cellos. Yes, just in one voice, you will hear the parts there.
You hear the parts.
Yeah.
Sounding.
Yeah.
And so I also discovered another thing that you reduce technicality by paying attention to the real matter.
Oh yeah, immediately, because if you get a musical solution, your musical solution will ultimately, or most of the time, will help you negotiate any pure technique.
So the more you're paying attention to that,
the
musical, what do you call it? Musical negotiation, musical part of it. Is the sound you're looking for. And so when there's no basis for that, or you don't have it in mind.
So the music is not good. The music won't be sweet.
Not even that, the whole thing will be a struggle because there's no basis, there's nothing you're looking out for. And the people have nicely hidden like gold. Hidden the thing inside there.
Yeah.
You can see those things you're playing now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you because the other part I don't like to hear, which is to say all the versions I've listened to. So I met a student who said he's played a concerto, trumpet concerto, and then he's starting from somewhere. I said all the time this music starts here like this. He said no, there's another all the version you're listening to. So that conversation of all the version as opposed to what you're saying of reading detail.
I think for me it's a dual approach. Let's look at it like this. Even Bach, the great almighty Bach, before he became famous and so on, he would listen and research and copy and everything.
Because I'm thinking, just because like those details you're playing, is it just a function of what is available out there?
No, it's actually there in the music.
No. I mean, like, how do you spend time to discover? Well, that is part that's lacking with
So, two things. One, that's why I said the two approaches. One is I will listen to as many good recordings. What I mean, good recordings, good in terms of audio quality, because without the quality audio, you really won't be able to to
Yes, some
discern some details. Now, listen to the details. Then good often qualifies the performer. And one performer that might be good at playing Baroque might be useless at playing another, what do you call it? And then some people who are overly hyped due to social media, for instance, some people that are overly hyped are actually not very good, right? They might have technique, but in terms of capturing the essence of the music, they might be lacking.
So is there a place of what you found in the music the other person didn't find it?
Oh yeah. I think yes.
And
And
so
there's sometimes
through practice, you discover that
sometimes it's actually a situation where a person might. So, which is why there are different interpretations. So a person, I might listen to some piece of music and this is what appeals to me in it.
Okay.
You might listen to the same piece of music or study the same piece of music, and even though you've noticed that detail, might not place much emphasis on it. Then again, there's also the artistic from the perspective of the person might notice a particular detail, but is unable to get that detail.
Because I'm looking at it like from the angle of maybe let's say an actor giving a script. They just give you the script to read, and it takes the actor who interprets. And so is there also a place of some details that the composer did not even see?
No, I mean, well, that's
and that you and the artist, you the performer, get to find out through your practice.
Well, the
bringing out some voices that
short of calling
possibly
short of calling Bach or Chopin or whoever to sit down with us and let's have a serious discussion about what he was doing with this music.
Okay.
It might not be possible to know any extra ideas that were there. So my own assumption is that anything I see in the any patterns.
Assuming
patterns that I see, any patterns that I see in the music were deliberate and intended and were intentional by the composer.
The reason of that was intention. So the intention you have given to certain things, or an artist gives to certain
that is the attention, yes.
Is it possible that the composer had that in mind as well? Like the arpeggios that they were going.
Yeah.
I could hear.
Yeah.
Certain sound going somewhere.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Because
assumably,
it's like short of calling the guy to sit him down, we won't know. But it is in the music, and then also further analysis of, for instance, that particular Rachmaninoff piece. Basically, both the main melody, which was and this. It's actually the same thing, but done at different levels. This one is running semiquavers, and all the time. So it's there. Yeah. So the guy was an expert at counterpoints. He would do it anyhow. So then we just assume that anything you see inside that score.
So in interpretation, so I'm assuming that what you see is what the composer gave. So is it possible that there's a detail you bring out, and artist B will not bring that detail because he is not saying it, or
that's possible. There are two possibilities.
Because I think that some of the music are a bit subjective.
Yeah, but even the nature of playing music is subjective. Different people play. That's why we can watch Jenny Kissing playing Rachmaninoff's second piano concerto. Then now go and look at Yuja One or Martha Garish or any of those people. And each time, each person gives it a unique twist, either deliberately or just because that's how that person plays.
Yeah, by the things they pay attention to.
Yeah.
So you can hear two artists or two players, but one is emphasizing certain notes or maybe something that you.
Yeah. And then it's also, so one
So
is.
that's why I'm now thinking that is it possible that the composers, at the risk of not inviting them again, so,
we can bring them on, raise them from the dead, and say, yeah, sit down, Mozart.
What did you want out of this?
What did you actually intend? Was this an accident? But I think that most of the people who I play are not given to accidents. Every single thing that is in that score is actually intended. The Kapustin, for instance, which
Who's there?
hello?
Who's there?
Come in.
Oh. Yes, we can.
Yeah. What? Huh? This, I need that fugue on this. Either you go or go and manufacture a sonata to put on it.
I want to dodge it. Are you not picking subsidy?
Please, thank you. Have you played any of those scherzo's?
You know me, I've not done the scherzos. I've done scherzos. 1,000 times I spent this. But if you want to apologize, you know the classes. I told you on Tuesdays like this.
So what I was going to say was that in the Kapustin I was doing, I think the musical nuance, even though you had a regular, okay, that's true. You pointed at it that in some of these composers, you have a single line of music, but which is implying
more
than just that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So in the Kapustin, that happened with this. So that was. So
your attitude changes when you start hearing that the other one is.
Yeah, but if you're not, if you're not thinking musically, then it will be difficult for you to bring this out. And Kapustin wrote it, where you have the single.
You're not playing it like a second leg of a quiver, or maybe or something. Not like it's just.
So and Kapustin wrote it with an additional. So those notes were in one row, with let's say like this, but those particular notes that he wanted out had a second stem attached to them.
Okay.
So those ones were, in addition to being in the main stem.
Was that to give the players
to let you know what he wanted.
Okay.
So once I could hear it like that, or I could see that was the musical intention, then my fingering and hand positions had to change in such a way that
accommodate that.
So kind of like wrist movements and hand movements that would facilitate. at faster speeds, I guess once you've been able to achieve it, you might not even notice so much. So, to a casual person looking on, you might not even detect that there's hand movements that are helping support this melody coming out. What I was asking about the
scherzos
was because even in those kind of things, I noticed that it's hand movements that help facilitate how you're phrasing. So you have your fingers, and you can have a set of fingers, but if you do not have the musical intention, which will inform how you're going to phrase.
The musical intention.
Yes. So that musical intention will now tell you, okay, yes, you're using 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 for this, what do you call it? But your hand has to do like this to be able to support it. So even though I could have played it without, I don't need to move. But because I want to be able to phrase this in a particular way, my hands are doing. And, or let's say the other one. Yeah. So, even any one of those things, I will spend so much time trying to make that's this one. I spent like about 2 weeks before I started understanding how I was going to do it.
So why what because you are looking for the
musical how I wanted, or at least explore the possibilities of how that phrasing should be comfortable inside my mind, and then now look for the appropriate hand movements which are beyond just the fingers. So the fingers for instance might just be this, but the fingering by itself does not tell you what hand movements you're going to use in support of those fingering.
That's another point, it's fingers.
So
fingering don't tell you.
So
even with fingers written on those stuff,
yeah,
it does not.
It doesn't tell
you
the
and that's another part that is very important.
The ballet or the dance of that music. So that ballet is like about sort of like 60% of the work.
Yeah, it's just that's the part that's not written in the music.
So if I'm doing this at 5, 4, 2, 1. Because this is where I'm going. Because in that phrase, this is the high point. This is the. So this is the tension, the most tense is where it's going. So my hand position is going to help me determine. And then also again, in order to make sure that one hand is not being contaminated by the second. Okay. So when I did this part of it, that part, for instance, I had to practice the hand separately so that this hand movement of this hand is not interfering with the other one. So that this one has its own identity.
So after a great deal, those are beyond fingers.
Yeah.
They are beyond just that fingers are there.
Yeah, so if you don't know, if you didn't work out the exact movement, why do I have to go down here?
So after
why do I have to move down all the way here? After all, the notes, the G and the B flat are in my range. But this allows me to shape. Internalize that movement so that the hand is not just doing things mechanically.
Is it better to just do a lot of exercises that explores all the fingers? Yes, because if you follow by, doctrine is like someone can say a doctrine to you without talking to you. It just give you a pattern to follow.
So you may just be going.
So, and so, for instance, if you have these traditional books talking about scales and fingers, they always avoid you having the thumb play certain notes, intervals.
Okay,
so that in a way, if someone is constantly in that mode, definitely has been, without knowing what is telling him, has been taught that the certain fingers shouldn't go to anywhere.
But then again, the problem with that thinking is that Chopin introduced a lot of interesting, innovative techniques, starting from when he came out with those etudes. Implied in those etudes is a lot of techniques. Prior to that time, if we go back to the Baroque, some pianists and some keyboardists, let's say, were actually of the opinion that most of them were that you never use your thumbs for playing. So you weren't using their thumbs. Then, as time went by, that became refined to, yes, your hands must be completely stable. So, stable and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then maybe some would come with the additional notion that your fingers must always be curved. But with Chopin 1, you can't play Chopin if your hand is still. So if you're already...
what's the definition of still now? 5 fingers.
Still 5 fingers. Very little.
We have restrictions of you don't want to use.
It's sort of like quiet hand, basically is what they were trying to do. Yeah. And then your hand will be fixed position, and maybe the thinking behind that was that if your hands are quiet, then you have a very even tone and music will just be going very controlled. But with Chopin, you can't try that, because to start with, some of the arpeggios of, for instance, that are greater than
5 fingers.
5 fingers like this became standard, and he immediately, I think that was why that Opus 10 number 1 was there as Opus 10 number 1. Both the first Opus 10 number 1 and Opus 10 number 2 were complete extremes. One was chromatics with the 3-4-5, 3-4, while the one, yes. Yeah. So that was basically your hand is in a cramped position.
That is the technique
Then the two of them actually are actually nasty.
that displaces the idea of.
So, and most people, if you are thinking about the other one, you'll be assuming that your hands have to be like this. But if you hold your hand like this for maybe just for 10 seconds, nobody will tell you before you release it. So, but meanwhile, when people want to play these pieces, a lot of them, if they do have somebody that could put them through it, their hands are going to be stretched out, so making it difficult for them to play the piece. So what was there actually was Chopin was talking about tension and release. So you stretch, and then you come back. Rather than it being, which is hard. So, but most people that are learning this kind of piece will be there with, coming from old school, thinking that their hands have to be stretched out.
Yeah, but in descending, are you?
Yes.
Is it that's okay.
So even so you play, as soon as you're finished playing, you immediately release the note, release the finger. So the idea is that you don't retain tension. So if you now watch people like Martha Marguerite, in the middle of some really complex pieces, you actually see her do this, do something like that. Just let go of the tension.
So you can come back again.
Yeah, which is another good reason for all those techniques where you're playing very slowly and you play the note and then immediately release it. Because playing the note and immediately releasing the finger, one is that it frees your brain from having to hold that finger up. And then also it allows you physically to get some respite. Because once the finger goes back to its most relaxed position, then it is not being worked up. So even if it was
target is to make sure the fingers go to their relaxed positions.
Yeah. So you play. So in slow practice, I'm going. So as soon as I'm like this, the only thing that's really being stretched at that or is being stressed is this fourth finger. And then my wrist has brought it round to place this one in the next position. So that means that I am not stretched, I'm not stressed at all. I'm not stretched and I'm not stressed, even though we're talking about wide distances. Then even this one. So to play this, some people will assume that you have to stretch. No, it's actually a jump. And the jump is conducted with the arm.
Yeah.
So which is less tiresome.
I can even feel pain.
Yeah.
Not finger.
No, it's not good. Yeah. So if you don't do that, if you didn't know that, one is that you find it difficult to negotiate the piece. And even this. So even though you're not doing, so most people think that their hands have to be in this stretched out position. So, but if you release, so most of the time your hand is going to be in this position. So pretty much, and then again, almost all those notes.
That's G flat.
Yeah, almost all those notes. Your thumb is playing your thumb is on that black keys all the time, which goes against the grain.
Against the rule.
Yeah. So, but almost all these great people, from Chopin upwards, were now putting in all those techniques. So your thumb is constantly, you put whatever finger is going to be convenient and that is going to allow you to get the musical expression. Back to this same stretching thing. So if you think about even Liszt was using it too. Liszt was using it. So Campanella. So people think because they had long hands that your hands, no, it is. So here I'm relaxed. So a lot of times it's just your hands are in the relaxed position, but you're jumping, yes. Or in Rhapsody Español. Yeah.
So jump to get the hands relaxed, not stretch.
Avoid stretching as well. And then it also allows you to calculate the distance that you're jumping better. Because if you stretch and then you now want to jump,
so at the end of the day, a study such as wasn't intended to. People usually mistake it that I thought like that then, that it was to help to stretch.
So did I. So did I. And I went for a very.
But by nature,
yeah.
How can your hands stretch again?
No, well, the thing is that.
Well, your bones, if you're going to do a gym, you go to the gym and do bone stretching, massage, but a piece of music.
Okay,
then. A piece of music help you to stretch.
Yeah. Even this.
No. Why? No, but you have said now that it's a matter of the mind, tension and release. The fact that this is wide like this didn't the composer, you just mentioned Liszt now, his palm was wide. It was just a matter of coincidence. It wasn't even trying to say people should stretch their hands.
Yeah, the technique. Well, I think basically what
you would say he wrote according to his own advantage. He had reportedly that he had a longer, wider.
He did, but at the same he did, and even Rachmaninoff.
But at the same time, wasn't.
Hold on, there are two things here.
Okay.
One is the fact that, of course, you write to your own strengths, but being that they're musical, it didn't mean that you're always going to. So, like if you think about Rachmaninoff with his wide, and Liszt too also had wide hand spans, but different musicians are going to approach these kind of pieces. So if you think about something like La Campanella, so something like that. Me, as far as I'm concerned, I'm thinking about how can I play it musically. So if I can find a way that will allow me to play it musically, I do not have this hand size. Okay. So this last one is actually quite difficult. So I'm doing two things. One is that if I'm practicing something like this, if I was getting ready for a concert, I might actually do something like. I might do that. Okay. Why? Because if I do, by practicing this one at speed, it will make this one look easy.
Okay, so the wider one.
Yes. So that will make it seem easy.
As exercise.
As an exercise. Then, two is that in any place where I can rewrite the distribution of notes according to the hands, I will do it. So when I'm playing this, I always use this for that octave. Yeah, because it allows me to play it musical, because at the end of the day, it's about playing music, not about trying to see
Yeah.
See whether you're superhuman. You're not. We're not. So you just have to find your own way.
Yeah, I'm getting the music down.
So another piece, let me see, there's another place where I did a redistribution like that. I did redistribution in, okay, yes. Towards in this section of that track minor prelude in E flat, I did something like even though this is a stretch, but it's only going to be for a short while.
Yeah, short while. In many cases,
have the stretch, so I sent it to the right hand.
I wanted to say that in many instances, you actually sit down and work out this fingering yourself.
Yeah, it will not be. That's why actually most of those advanced books, you only see fingering in one or two places.
Yeah, they don't even bother because you have to work it out.
You have to work it out a lot of the time. Yeah.
Yeah, because what I see, it seems like a walk-off. You know, what do you call that? A potter putting, an artist putting color together. That's what you're doing.
Oh yeah.
It's not a matter of it is finger 5, finger this.
No, for instance, in let me give you an instance. In that Chopin ballad, okay. So coming from here. Fingering where it's going 5-4, and one of Chopin's innovations was putting the 4 on top of. So even though that finger, yes. So you're allowing. So for me, it was easier for me to play. I didn't try the same thing there.
Positions.
Which is the same technique as this same technique is that.
fully well. To what extent? From a point to a point, or throughout the whole music?
Oh, as much as possible, most pieces I will try to see if I can play the whole music left-handed.
Left-handed.
And
so
maybe even
so
try ghosting the right hand.
Yeah. Is it so? One of the benefits is that when you are done, your ear has not been clearly partitioned to hear what this is supposed to do.
Yeah.
And what this is supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so in doing what they are supposed to do, so the coming together, is there a place of empathy? So empathy. Oh, I know this is what you're supposed to do, but you have learned this part.
No, what I use is really simple.
No, this hand has learned it. This hand has learned his own part, his own thing. You've made the music from a point to a point, or maybe to the ending.
Well, the thing is
so
that
to coming together now.
Well, the thing is
coming
that
together, you have to now. What do you need to fuse together now?
the thing is that that's okay. Like,
No, I'm not talking about I'm not talking about playing together, like hands together in the traditional sense. I'm talking about the music media. Music media is like two people are going to rehearse. This is viola.
well, like
And they come to a rehearsal. So the music making.
so
The making.
the way it works for me is that a lot of the time I'll do several iterations of playing the two hands together and separating them. Each time I play the hands separately, it improves my clarity of what that hand is supposed to be playing. Then put the two hands together again, and I have better ears for the details of what each hand is doing. Then, when I now go back to to playing two hands together very slowly, you now have the time to allow your mind to examine the components of the two of them. So you play at a speed that might be so slow, but it gives you the opportunity to change your mental focus from one part to the other, to the combination of them. Issues of balance, issues of how well relaxed, issues of quality of the tone.
Because that's where you start thinking
issues of
see the music has
issues of quality of tone, issues of ideal hand position for the passage. Because you might have, again, like I said before, you might have the right finger, but not, you will now continuously refine the hand position. And then issues of balance. So that as I'm doing this, I wanted it on top. So throughout this passage is what is on top that is coming out, or at least I think so. So the melody is always on top, and I can hear that. So, but at the slow practice, when I'm doing the slow practice, I can really, really seriously work on that. So when I did the other one, back to the Rachmaninoff,
I wanted to say this part sounds like it sounds like same Rachmaninoff. It sounds like
okay, yes, actually, you're right. Yeah. Maybe Gershwin actually photocopied him quietly.
Oh, that's Gershwin. Yeah, thank you. Yes, that
Yeah.
was.
So I'll be working to see if I can give this one as much level, as much tone and sound contrasted with the other one, but in real life.
So every sound has to have where they're going.
same thing with the left hand now to make sure that the melodies were there. But then the mental games that I might play throughout that is I might say, okay, let's focus on the alto, let's focus on the tenor, let's focus on, so and go turn by turn, so that if I'm in a live situation, I'm playing, I won't find myself lost because I hadn't done that experiment before.
Yeah. That's great. So the point when you start seeing the music together as one, even though this hand has practice, so that's fusing together as one. At that point, are you thinking in left and right, or you're thinking of the overall?
Of course, you know now, it will now be based upon, the music, a holistic view of the music, and then two, to make it not so rigid, you will now be thinking also of, you will draw your inspiration from how the music appeals to you at that point in time.
Do you think that to the young ones, people learning to play the piano, to what extent, how far can they go? Because what you're saying requires a lot of patience.
Well, you see, some of us were a bit earlier or later than others. Jenny Kissin was regretting that he learned how to practice late. By the age of 8 or 7 or 8 was when he had learned how to practice. I was now regretting the 2 years that wasted. But then again, so I was reading somewhere that it's actually about the process, because once you've been able to discover this about making music or learning music, you now find out that you actually enjoy. It's a very enjoyable process.
Yeah, and that thing you're saying seemed to make the difference, clear difference with. You started by, when you were up there, talking about the Westerners and how you will hear clarity, you will hear what you want to think of, maybe it's interpretation that will be different, but you hear clarity. And so, shouldn't we focus on music making than technicality? Because
it is actually about music making.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, most of us, I think it's one. It has a lot to do with male behavior. Male behavior, and then also if we now look at it that if between you and me you've done so much accompaniment of singers, instrumentalists, the bulk of what people want to play that they will first start playing is loud, fast, and high. Anything that will give that is showy, that has pyrotechnics. So everybody wants to not the most
singers want to
sound high and be able to shout. So that is the mindset. So which is actually counter-intuitive to being able to make music, because if you really want to make something sound very loud, then all you need to do really is drop to increase the dynamic range. So to make something very loud, if you're also doing very soft in the same piece of music, then your loud will now be so seriously. So if we started from something like third ballad where it goes. So I don't need to do much to make that.
Yeah, because you've created
Yes.
a balance.
So just because I'm so quiet,
So
I don't need to do so much. And so on and so forth. So you really don't need, once you're able to do very quiet, then you don't need to be so loud before you get very, very loud passages. And then similarly, if you're able to play with clarity at slow speeds, when you now need to make it sound fast, all you need to do is increase just a little bit. So dependent on the kind of plan you put in place, some people will look very, very fast, but they're not really playing as fast as this other guy who was unable to be clear. So clarity. So if you put your foot down, most of the time it does not give you the sense of speed, because the attack is blurred by the sustain being down, attack of which individual note. So if you want your passage work to sound very clean and very fast, then use much less pedal. If you're using less pedal, then immediately it will sound like it's very fast, because each attack will register. So if I could do that without pedal, it will sound much faster.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. Always a good time to learn. So focusing on music making, yeah. So sometimes if you look at a new passage, the technicality you see, so we always need a doctor to tell you, or is he a doctor? Not inviting the composer to come to tell us what.
No.
There's always need for a master.
We need to. Sometimes we need to. Maybe what we could do is create an agent.
Is it music herbalist?
No, create an AI agent. Put all the books, all his works, all the biographies, everything, every single quote.
All right. Thank you very much.